in this segment, in this special segment, we want to discuss the state of racing in Australia at the moment, and what I consider, and I think the boys agree, a lack of depth in our racing, and why the reasons for that is. In years gone by, in the past 20, 30 years, we've had a great crop of horses competing during the spring or the autumn, which made for outstanding viewing and really got the followers of racing excited. But just that right now, probably over the last 18 to 24 months, the depth in racing has really been lacking in Australia, especially once you get over the middle distances and away for age races in particular. We've got Weekend Hustler, who's the #1 horse in Australia or Australasia right now, but apart from him, there just doesn't seem to be a lot around. He's been going through winning his races leading into the Cox Plate and Caulfield Cup and everything else, but really he's racing against handicaps at the moment. It doesn't seem to be real standout weight for age performers, and I just want to put a spin on this. We'll discuss this at length, but in my opinion, I think our breeding industry has got a lot to answer for. I think breeding for speed over so many years has finally caught up with us, and we're no longer producing these tough, durable horses with great constitution that race on to their 4, 5, 6, and like we used to do in the old days. And I think it's really having an impact on our racing, mate. Being our breeding expert, what are your thoughts on this?
Look, I think that personally, I think there's a couple of reasons why we're having this this issue with depth in our racing. Clearly, we are geared more towards speed in the commercial market. The races that we look for are the Golden Slipper and the Magic Millions. From a commercial side of it, that's where everything points towards.
Much to the detriment of our industry.
Look, in the past, before we had the globalisation of racing and the shuttling concept, we used to have a situation here in Australia where we didn't get access to the very best horses. If we could get horses that run 4th or 5th in derbies, they would be our better stallions. And that was exactly Sir Tristram, but even before him, a lot of the horses that came through were more along those lines. Now we have a situation where at some point we get access to all of these bloodlines and all of the better horses. So we are directing more towards those speed lines. I will also say that aside from the breeding aspect, I do think that the trading of horses internationally to Southeast Asia, to Singapore, emerging markets like Singapore, to established markets like Hong Kong, to others like Macau. Now, in the past, those countries, particularly Hong Kong, would take our secondary horses. They would take our horses that would be runners in derbies. Now they're taking our winners. They're taking our horses that run second, our better class horses. Now, you cannot underestimate the effect that has on the depth of our racing when you're losing your better classic horses and you're losing your secondary horses.
Who are we losing?
Well, Ambitious General was a horse that ran second in the AJC Derby. Horses like Ambulance.
Countless horses. What about the Zabeel that Lloyd Williams sold?
Well, Vengeance of Rain. Now, Vengeance of Rain has been the best horse probably we've sold over there, the most successful of those horses. All the
Sacred Kingdom, we sold all of them.
No, we're talking about a depth in weight for age racing and staying lines. We're selling. Yeah, you're mentioning 3 or 4 horses over the past 20 years of trading.
You give us time to prepare, mate.
Yeah, exactly.
List them all. The
point is, it affects depth, and we're talking about the depth of our races.
Correct.
And that's the secondary horse that affects the overall depth in our races. Now, from a breeding perspective, it's a difficult one because you've got the studs have to cater to what the market wants. Now, the market's telling the farms that they want 2-year-olds, that they want speed, that they want a quicker return on investment. The reasons that are driving that are economic factors. Now, you might not choose to acknowledge that, but that is a fact, that it's very expensive to race a horse. And not everybody has access to oil wells and kings and queens and millions of dollars. Most people are involved in syndicates. Most people find the racing is a luxury, and as such, they need to have a return on investment, whether positive or negative. They need to know where they stand very quickly. So that's the driving factor. Now, you look at overseas, we're not on our own here. North America is always focused on speed. Europe has focus more on staying lines. But don't think for a second that they're not also finding it difficult there. They're not where we are at the moment. However, they're having a situation as well where there is a diminishing number of staying stallions available to them. Horses that are doing quite well in Europe at the moment, one of them, Monson, was based in Germany, and they are sourcing horses from Germany to try to get staying lines into Europe, because a lot of their good staying size are now national hunt stallions, and they're not commercial. So it's a worldwide phenomena that's happening.
Well, Sadler's Wells was like the kingpin in Europe and in England for like 20 years.
Correct.
He's got many sons that stud over there.
Yeah, and most of them no good. So Galileo has been one that's good, and Monture's done well, but for the most part, he hasn't left a huge legacy of other size sons that are going to do the job as well as he did. So look, the answer, it's a difficult one because most of our feature races are staying races. You know, our Melbourne Cups.
Not just our feature races, Suman, but I will tell you, most of our champions over the past 20 years have been horses that weren't commercially bred.
Yeah, that's right.
And all horses that raced over a middle distance.
That's right.
So where does that leave our commercial breeding industry when they're not producing? When they're paying, there were over 20 or 30 yearlings sold over $1 million.
The problem is
this past 6 months.
And you've answered your own question, because it is extremely difficult. If a person could go to a yearling sale and identify a horse that could win a Derby or win a Cox Plate or a Melbourne Cup accurately, they would do it, because they're the races that people like Lloyd Williams wants to win those races.
Yeah, but that's not the point. The point is they're trying to identify horses that can win the Golden Slipper or the Magic Millions.
But they're a lot easier to identify because physically they have a particular type. They're strong. They physically have an advantage over their competitors. Whereas stayers come in all shapes and sizes. Some of them are big boats. Some of them are tiny little.
Well, if it's easy to identify, I don't think they're doing a great job of identifying, because only out of the thousands of yearlings that are sold, only like 14 get to the Golden Slipper.
Yeah,
maybe not even 10% of them get to the races.
I'm not saying it's easy to identify. I'm saying that there is a specific type that you can look for that's an early maturing, physically strong type, which is more likely to run as a sprinter.
That may be the case. Do you have any thoughts on this, mate?
Yeah, look, I think as Suman said, it's a combination of a number of different things, all of which perhaps there is no immediate answer to. I think certainly the commercial nature of our breeding industry, where our better mares are bred to sell, not bred to race, and we're in search of fashion rather than practicality, is
fashion's killing our industry.
Yeah, it certainly is. I think the programming of races in this country isn't right. I don't have the answer myself, but you hear time and time again of trainers saying they can't bring horses through the grades.
Exactly.
It's very difficult.
But it might not be killing the industry. It might be it's an evolution to the industry. The industry's changing, and look, what's hard to accept in life is change. People get used to history and they don't necessarily like change. But change is something that happens. And look, I'm a purist myself. I love the classic racing. I love the derbies. I love the cups, and I'd love to see fields of 15, 16, in our Group 1s of horses that have a chance. But we've got to be practical here, and I think unless we can find a solution to addressing the costs of racing, and that may be from subsidies.
Just give me, I only have 30 seconds here, just give me a minute to explain something. I think it's not necessarily a fact that we need to breed squib on squib to breed something that you get running as a 2-year-old. Some of the best sprinters in the world over the past 50 years have been speed size out of staying mares or mares that are bred stoutly. I think the problem is that we're breeding squib on squib. That's essentially the biggest issue that we've got, and we're breeding to stallions that I guess have some ordinary dam lines and some more squibby dam lines as well. And we in the state of Australian racing, Australian breeding at the moment, is that we've got mares that are I guess pretty poorly bred, some that are just absolutely bred on speed lines and not enough staying influences in them to help keep a bit of balance. I think there is, it's certainly possible for us to have a strong commercial breeding industry and have some balance. I think there is that possibility there. I think at the moment there's an imbalance in our breeding industry.